Welcome everyone to Stadium Journey's Obstructed Views, the show where a couple of guys in a couple of countries have a couple of beers and discuss a stadium somewhere in the world and their experiences there. I'm Paul.
And I'm Dave.
And we are excited to be here with you tonight. So before we get started, please make sure to subscribe to the Stadium Journey YouTube channel, like this video, and leave comments if you feel so inclined. We love to be interactive. The official Stadium Journey review of today's venue can be found at stadiumjourney.com, or the link can be found in the comments below. So let's get started. Dave, what are you drinking today?
Okay, so as we've discussed on the Stadium Journey podcast before, COVID brought with us like a little bit of a life shift, and we ended up buying a cottage in Wasaga Beach, which is just off of Georgian Bay, and I stumbled across the knowledge that there is actually a brewery, craft brewery in Wasaga Beach, because, you know, there's a craft brewery everywhere now. I'm pretty sure I'm waiting for Man Cave Brewery to show up coming out of your garage. But anyway, so I've got myself today a Beach One Cerveza from the Wasaga Beach Brewing Company. The tourist areas in Wasaga Beach, the beaches are all numbered: Beach 1, Beach 2, Beach 3, Beach 4. And the kind of the main, if you were to go as a tourist and where all the little shops are and all that kind of stuff, the restaurants, you're going to Beach 1. And I think they refer to it as cerveza, which is, of course, Spanish for beer, because it does have a kind of Corona taste to it. So very much like Corona. When my brother-in-law tried it, he said, you know, you should throw some lime in there, just like you would normally do with a Corona. So that's what I got. What do you got?
All right. So when we started doing the Obstructed Views podcast and started highlighting different beers, it added a new wrinkle to my travels. So when I'm on the road doing reviews for Stadium Journey, I'm also now looking for a beer pub. And when I went to Bridgeport, Connecticut to do the newly renamed Total Mortgage Arena for the Bridgeport Sound Tigers, they have a new brew pub open just a couple blocks away that serves their menu and consists entirely of beer and pizza. My kind of place. So I went in and I picked up this fantastic Blood Orange Blonde Ale.
Ooh. From
the place is called Brewport. It's a play on, I got to go this way, play on the city of Bridgeport. And for those of you who have visited the former ballpark at Harbor Yard, you will recognize the artwork on the back of the can. It's the old power plant that used to sit beyond the right field fence. So the ballpark is no longer there. It's been replaced by a concert and outdoor concert venue. But the legacy, the building, the power plant's still there. So they've immortalized it. And if you step outside of Brewport, there it is. So that's the can. And if we were visiting today's destination, we might be drinking, strangely enough, a Blood Orange Brew Free or Die from the Bulldog in Lower Town, because today we're talking about CHS Field, the home of the St. Paul Saints. Before we dive in, let's take a look at the Stadium Vitals. Okay, so we're looking today at CHS Field, the home of the St. Paul Saints. Now, whenever we've done a minor league ballpark rankings, first in the independent days, and now that the Saints are affiliated and part of AAA, CHS Field has always been at or near, and in fact, our last one, it was the top of all the AAA ballparks with an incredible score. I think, if I recall correctly, 4.72, which is almost a perfect score on our fanfare rating scale. Dave, is this ranking legit? Does it deserve to be rated so highly?
Well, that's a tough one, I got to say, because I think CHS Field does not have the same eye test as some of the other AAA places. So when you walk up to, let's say, a Toledo, you go, whoa. When you walk up to, I'm trying to think of another nice one, like Durham, If you walk up to Durham right away, you're going, wow. CHS Field, walking up to it is really unassuming. It's not something that's going to blow you away. I think it's one of those parks where you start adding up all of the things and it all comes together and you're like, hey, that's a pretty darn good score. But yeah, I mean, from the exterior, it's pretty, like I said, unassuming. It's not huge. It's not, there aren't a lot of features from the street that are going to just draw your eye. In fact, I would say that's probably its biggest weakness. You're looking at really one entrance, and that entrance is nothing spectacular. It definitely has that feel of, okay, here's our footprint and we want this to fit in this footprint. Right. So I'm not sure what was around before, but they definitely wanted to be there. You got the farmers market right across the road, which obviously is not happening during a ball game, but I guess on a Saturday that'd be pretty decent. You go to the farmers market and then you could go to the ball game later. They do use that area for parking. I actually went to 2 games in the time that we were in Minnesota, because this is one of those great ones where we were at the same game at the same time. And the first night I went, it was harmonica night. And they had an amazingly creative title for that night, but essentially it was harmonica night, and they had a band out front, outside the stadium at the farmers market playing harmonica music. I mean, so they use that kind of stuff. But yeah, I think the first thing right away is it just doesn't blow you away aesthetically from the outside.
Right, because I remember walking into CHS Field. We all gathered outside because there were 15 of us who gathered from around the country. It was our Stadium Journey convention, and if anyone from the Saints is listening, thank you so much for hosting us and accommodating us. Sean, you did not follow through on all the stuff you had promised me, but you know what? That's all right. You were kind of busy. Yeah, I came up because I ended up going back to my car. I had forgotten something in my car, so I went back down to the car and then back up. So I entered after everyone else, and I remember joining back up with the group at our seats, probably about a half an hour later, and I said, I think we overrated this one. But the more time I spent there, and as I started to wander around the ballpark, like you said, Dave, the scores add up. I would not rate it on our fanfare score as high as our last review did, but it would be a really solid score, with not a whole lot of deductions anywhere. It is a really nice park, but in the International League, like you said, where there are so many outstanding parks, I really have it. And this is not a slight at it, because still, I mean, on our 5-point scale, I would give it like a 4.3, but that's still middle of the pack for the International League, at least for me.
Well, yeah, and let's face the facts. This place came in with some seriously high expectations for us, right, because we had heard so much about it, and we did have Sean Aronson on the podcast a couple times,
right? And
you did get that independent baseball feel to it, where it's like really, really heavy on the promotions.
The wackiness factor, yes.
Their team is super creative. I mean, there's like the stuff that was going on there. I was like, hey, we've been around. You've been around a little bit longer in minor league baseball than I have. I'm at that point in life where I'm starting to feel like, yeah, I feel like I've seen everything, right? Like nothing really shocks me anymore. But they had some stuff at the Saints game that I was like, get out of here. I don't fully understand the pig motif, but there is a serious pig motif going on.
Yeah, they don't have a bat dog like a lot of teams have. They have a bat pig, or I don't know if he actually collects the bats, but he's involved. Or
it's a ball pig.
They bring the balls out to the umpires.
Bring the balls to the umpires, and it's a real pig.
Yes, they just replaced it this year. This one, and they all have these intricate pork-related names. This was something about Top Gun Maverick or something. I forget.
Yeah,
but it replaced another.
It had
pig.
something to do with Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, something.
The previous pig, I guess, got too big for the job, so they had to retire him. and they said they had a wonderful barbecue in his honor, where he was the guest of honor. So I hope they didn't cook the old ball pig, but that's kind of what they insinuated. But yeah, I work for a minor. For those of you who don't know or aren't regular listeners, I work for a minor league ball team, and one of my assignments now that our season is over is go out there, and the owner of the team wants me to make recommendations, and he is big on wanting our atmosphere to be wacky and zany, and so I'm going to have three words for him: St. Paul Saints.
Mhm.
Because they load up the kitsch. They don't employ just one PA announcer. They have a team. They have a
Right.
couple guys, and their job it's basically a 3-hour comedy monologue. They're just trying to throw zings in there, back and forth, off each other, off the players, off the crowd, and it's just nonstop. Might rub some people the wrong way, but they were pretty entertaining. And that's
Yeah.
only the beginning of their cast of characters.
And they were right down on the field too. So it's even better. Like we could see them. No problem.
They're not in the press box.
They did not
next
have
to the
that.
dugout.
They didn't feel disengaged. They didn't feel like at arm's length. They were like right there. And I'm sure they would interact with the crowd that's sitting. They were sitting right beside the home dugout.
Yeah.
On a folding table of all things.
Yeah.
And you could tell that they were right there. And I think they have several different teams, because that was not the same group that they had on the Friday night when I was there. So because there was a lady there as part of that group. But yeah, they made little barbs and little shots and in independent baseball, there's a lot of talk right now about the Savannah Bananas and how they're really going over the top. And I feel that the Saints have kind of just taken it right up to that line that's acceptable for minor league baseball. I'm not sure they could go much farther.
No.
Right? They don't have the super crazy,
right,
gross yellow uniforms, and they don't have the players doing weird things. And
right.
But I feel like they're just right up at that line.
The crazy stuff is all around you as a fan, though.
Yeah.
I was thinking of they've got a cast of characters that roam the stands. Like there's a lady. Usher Tainers. Yes, thank you for remembering that word. They have a lady on roller skates who's like supposed to represent the 90s. They had the Japanese karaoke guy. They had like an old English royalty guy.
The coach. They had the coach.
The coach who was supposed to be like a gym teacher.
They had the nerd.
The nerd. They all kinds of characters who roam the stands all game. They interact with the fans. They lead the promotions that go on throughout the game and all that good stuff. And so if you're careful at St. Paul, you're going to miss the whole game's going to happen. You're like, what the heck? I didn't even see the game because I was busy paying attention to everybody else.
Yeah. And that group is rotating too, because there were people who were at the Friday night that were not at the Saturday night, and people at Saturday night who were not at Friday night. So I think that's also, again, this is something that we don't often talk about because it doesn't apply to us stadium journey people, is how do you keep the season ticket holders? How do you keep the regulars interested without being, boring? Oh, geez, this again. Oh man. Right. So I would love to see what the kind of the promotion budget is for the Saints versus some other places, because it sure feels like the Saints have a quite significantly high, budget for off-field kind of promotions and personnel, like personnel who are not involved in concessions or security or baseball.
That's a great point. How do you keep it fresh for your season ticket holders? Because I know the owner of the team I work for has come to me many times and said, how about we do this? And I've told him flat out, that's going to be funny once. We've got to do it 40 times. It's not going to be funny for long, or for our fans who are here every night. So, yeah, and the Saints, if they're rotating people through, that's a great way to counteract that. You got different teams, different bits, different gigs, different games on the field. So there's a lot of entertainment going on there off the field.
Yep. And you know what? Their hashtag totally fits that they use in their online promotions. Their hashtag is fun is good. And there is a bit of throwback to this whole story, because the president of the St. Paul Saints is a guy by the name of Mike Veeck,
I'm glad that you knew the backstory because I was about to get into that.
who maybe not everybody knows Mike Veeck. I mean, I got to be honest, I don't know Mike Veeck, but I have heard of Mike Veeck's dad,
Right.
who was the legendary, crazy Bill Veeck. And if you ever see anything written on Bill Veeck, you'll probably mispronounce his name because it's spelled Veeck. But his autobiography was called Veeck as in wreck. And he was the mastermind behind 10 Cent Beer Night in Cleveland
and Disco Demolition
Night in Chicago. And he was the character owner. And to see that kind of his tradition, his mindset has been passed on to a place where it's absolutely necessary and embraced. Let's not forget, this is a minor league team in a major league market. The big daddy, big brother is up the street, right? It's easy to go to a Twins game. So are you always competing with the Twins? Well, probably not. I mean, when we were there, the Twins were out of town. They came in a little bit later in the week.
Yep. They came
Is that always the case? Probably not. But you know what? Those fans who were at the Saints game could have stayed home. They could have stayed home and watched the Twins on television, right? So it's a whole different experience. It takes promotion to a new level.
We asked Sean Aronson when he was on our podcast that very question, or I did, and he says, not worried at all. So they're very confident in what they do and the product they put out.
Yeah.
And the entertainment factor there. Now, if you're a traditional kind of baseball fan who doesn't go for all the shenanigans, they got some stuff for you too. The Museum of Baseball that they have out in left field. Very, very small thing that chronicles the history of baseball in St. Paul.
The City of Baseball Museum.
Thank you. I know I was going to mess that up. It's a small, and it highlights some major leaguers, some famous players who have come from the Twin Cities area. The first female professional baseball player came from St. Paul. It's all very well done, and you can be in and out of that museum in probably 10 minutes if you wanted to. But I probably spent a good inning in there. So
yeah, you could spend a lot of time in there too. And
really well done.
It's also it's not huge.
Nope.
There's not a ton of artifacts. It is a Hall of Fame in that there are inducted members, and some of those inducted members, you're like, what? Duke Snyder, Roy Campanella, and the one that blew me away. So the original St. Paul Saints were like way back. Mm-hmm. They were owned by a guy, you may have heard of him. His name was Charlie Comiskey. And he got tired of baseball in St. Paul, and he picked up the Saints and moved them to Chicago and renamed them the White Stockings. And eventually they became the Chicago White Sox. So he is also a member of the City of Baseball Hall of Fame. That was really shocking to me. They had some stuff on Babe Ruth back, in his barnstorming days and, early baseball days. That was pretty cool. One thing I really liked, and we've also been to a ton of Hall of Fames, and the big ones like Cooperstown, the little ones that you find in stadiums here, there, and everywhere. This is the first time I found, again, something unique. Instead of like big, huge numbers and pictures or whatever, the honored members had hand-painted baseballs. Mm-hmm. So they had their likeness painted on a baseball, and it was under a globe and rotating with a little explanation as to why they belong there and whatnot. And I was like, just this in and of itself is like, there's just brilliance in this. I was so awestruck. And by that time, I'd already seen a bunch of other stuff that blew my mind. I was like, oh my gosh, where does this stop?
The map on the floor that had the map of St. Paul and all the famous things in the where different players grew up, like Paul Molitor grew up, and different people grew up, and where different things happened in the city. I was just standing there looking at the floor for a while. It was just so really well done. And the physical layout of the ballpark, it's a small ballpark. I was surprised, I think.
Smallest in AAA.
Because AAA, you're supposed to, there's a standard for the different levels of minor league baseball. AAA standard is supposed to be 10,000. St. Paul is significantly smaller than that. It only
Yeah,
seats
it's
like 6,700.
7,200.
Or
is the
70. I
official
can't get any
capacity.
facts right tonight. Because, like you said, it's wedged into a small footprint. There are highways right beyond the fence on a couple
Yep.
of sides, and you have the neighborhood on the other side. Decent little neighborhood too. If you're going to go a couple blocks away, it's called Lower Town.
Yep.
We were able to find a nice brew pub after the game and hang out and have a couple of drinks and a little bit of food. So it was a very enjoyable night for all of
Yep.
us here in St. Paul.
Yeah. And I would, I made this comment. It was like, you're right about, the standard AAA and whatnot. And I said, why do you need it? Why do you need 10,000? Why do you need 3,000 empty seats or 4,000 empty seats or 5,000 empty seats, right? For that, 2 times a year when they're going to be full, or 4 times a year when this place was pretty much full Friday night. It was pretty much full Saturday. I'm sure it was pretty much full Sunday. So, why do you need 10,000 seats if you're kind of topping out at 7?
Right.
It's got a whole better feel to it.
Yep. A crowd of 6,000 in a 7,000 seat ballpark is a whole lot better than a crowd of 6,000 in a 10,000 seat ballpark.
Yeah. And physically I know why Mark loves this place, because any possible type of seating is there. You can find it, right? There's picnic tables and there's the home run porch. I mean, that was just an empty area. People just standing there.
There's a little pirate ship out in right field somewhere too, where
Yeah.
they utilized it. They turned into a bar or something. Yeah.
Yeah. There's just tons of different. The berms there. The berms were packed.
Yep.
I was on fireworks night on the Friday night, and they had to give people warning. Okay, if you're on the berm, you're gonna have to move soon. If you're on the berm, you're gonna have to move soon. So yeah, it's backdrop not great. It's not like it's kind of like Buffalo highways and whatnot. But who cares? It was so fun. And then some little details, like I don't know, I noticed these things and they're kind of weird. So we were sitting in the lower bowl under the overhang, which was nice. The overhang wasn't concrete. It was like this. Now I don't know if it was actually wood, but it looked like wood. Under the overhang, it was this nice wooden kind of pattern.
Right, it was finished. Yeah,
and with the big huge section number painted there, so it wasn't that difficult to figure.
That's right. Where are the section numbers? Look up. There they are.
Yeah, like the Friendly Giant. Look up. Look way up. And I guess from a concession standpoint, like everything you want is there. The beer corner in left field.
Yes.
Holy, I have not been to a ballpark where they needed to print the beer menu on paper so that people could figure it out. And this menu was so enormous that I had picked something, put the menu down. There was one person in front of me, proceeded to forget what I had picked. And then thankfully the person in front of me ordered what I was going to pick. So I didn't have to look like a total idiot and go through the big list again.
I don't think you would have had any problem finding something you liked in that list.
Yeah, no, it was huge. It was huge. I don't know how it's possible that the Twins can be anything but ecstatic with the new affiliation. And this is 2022. It's only the second year of their affiliation. The first year of kind of, I would say, full uninterrupted baseball attendance. Welcome to the International League. Hope you enjoyed the AAA East for the 10 minutes you were there. But yeah, it just a great experience. If you're a traditionalist, some of that promo stuff might be a little over the top for you, but man, it's a great place to take your kids, take your work crew, whatever. A lot of groups were there. That's one thing I saw. A lot of groups, a lot of not minor league, like kids baseball teams and stuff, softball teams, lots of little kid uniforms floating around there too. So good stuff.
All right, so that's our look at CHS Field in St. Paul, Minnesota. Overrated? I don't think so. Enjoy. We hope to see you on the road real soon. Cheers.
Cheers.